The hiring manager looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We don't believe in work-life balance here. That's for people who aren't passionate." And that wasn't even the worst part of the interview. By the end of those 90 minutes, I'd witnessed a screaming match, been asked to solve a crisis they'd manufactured 10 minutes before I arrived, and watched 3 employees cry. This is the story of the interview that saved my career by showing me everything wrong with the company in a single afternoon.
Let me take you back to last March. I was a project manager at a mid-sized tech company, and while the job was fine, I'd hit a ceiling. No growth opportunities, stagnant salary, the usual story. So when a recruiter reached out about a senior PM role at Vertex Solutions, a rapidly growing startup in the fintech space, I was intrigued. The recruiter painted a beautiful picture: competitive salary, equity, unlimited PTO, and a fast-paced, dynamic culture. That last phrase should have been my first warning, but I was blinded by the 20% salary increase they were dangling. The first red flag appeared before I even stepped inside the building. I arrived 15 minutes early for my 2 o'clock interview, as you do. The office was in one of those sleek downtown high-rises with marble lobby and inspirational quotes etched into the walls. Very impressive, very corporate. But when I checked in with reception, the woman behind the desk looked genuinely confused. "Interview? With who?" "Marcus Chen, the VP of Operations," I said. She typed something, frowned, typed again. "I don't see anything on his calendar. Let me call up." 10 minutes passed, then 20. Other candidates started arriving for other interviews, all experiencing the same confusion. By 2:30, there were 4 of us sitting in that lobby, all supposedly scheduled for different positions, none of us on anyone's calendar. Finally, a frazzled young woman in a wrinkled blazer burst through the security doors. Sorry, we had a situation, system migration, lost the calendar. You're Derek for the PM role?" That was me. I followed her through the security doors and into what I can only describe as controlled chaos. The open plan office was loud, not productive, busy loud, tense loud. People were at their desks, but they weren't working. They were watching something happening in a glass-walled conference room in the center of the floor. Inside that conference room, a man in an expensive suit was screaming at a woman who looked about my age. I couldn't hear the words through the glass, but I could see his face turning red, his finger jobbing toward her. She sat rigid, hands folded, accepting it. My guide, whose name I later learned was Priya, an HR coordinator who'd been there exactly 3 weeks, saw me looking. "That's Marcus, your interviewer. He'll be with you soon. The meeting's running long." Is that normal? Priya's silence told me everything. She deposited me in a small meeting room with glass walls facing the main floor. Perfect view of Marcus's ongoing tirade. The woman was crying now. 2 other employees had approached the conference room, hesitating outside like they wanted to intervene but didn't dare. I sat there for 45 minutes. During that time, I watched Marcus reduce that woman to tears, dismiss her with a wave, and then proceed to have what looked like a pleasant phone call while she gathered her things. 3 different people walked past my little fishbowl, noticed me, and kept walking. No one offered water. No one apologized for the delay. No one acknowledged that I had just witnessed what would probably be an HR violation at any normal company. When Marcus finally entered the room, he didn't apologize, he didn't introduce himself. He sat down, looked at his phone, and said, "So, Derek, tell me why I should care about you." Not "tell me about yourself," not "thanks for your patience." Tell me why I should care. I gave my standard elevator pitch, my 5 years of experience, my successful product launches, my track record of bringing projects under budget. He interrupted me halfway through. Yeah, everyone has a resume. Here's what I need to know." He slid a laptop across the table. "We have a client crisis, the Henderson account. Their implementation went sideways this morning. I need you to look at this project plan and tell me how you'd fix it. You have 15 minutes. I opened the laptop. The project plan was a disaster. Overlapping deadlines, resources double-booked, no contingency time, dependencies that made no logical sense. This is the actual project plan? The one that failed? Does it matter? I suppose it didn't. I spent 15 minutes doing my best to triage the mess, identifying the 3 most critical issues and outlining solutions. When I presented my analysis, Marcus listened with his arms crossed. "Not bad. You missed the vendor contract issue, but not bad." I hadn't missed anything. There was no vendor contract issue visible in what he'd shown me, but I let it go. "Now," Marcus said, leaning back, "let's talk culture fit." This is where it got interesting. "At Vertex, we're not a team, we're a family." He said this like it was a positive. And family means commitment, total commitment. We don't clock in and clock out here. We don't count hours. We're here because we believe in what we're building. I appreciate that, I said carefully. I'm definitely someone who... Let me finish, he held up a hand. Work-life balance is a myth. It's something people with mediocre ambitions invented to feel better about their mediocre results. The people who succeed here, they live this company. Is that going to be a problem for you? I should have walked out right then, but I was still in interview mode, still programmed to impress. I'm committed to delivering results, whatever that takes. Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good answer. Let's see if you mean it. He checked his watch. It's 3:45 now. We have a client call at 6 with the Henderson team to discuss the crisis I just showed you. I need you to stay, observe, and participate. Consider it a working interview. Stay until 6? Is that a problem?
Okay, I have to pause here because this is the moment where every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run. An interviewer who screams at employees, a company that loses appointments, a 2-hour extension of an interview with zero notice. Subscribe right now if you think this is already a complete disaster. And tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed in an interview when you knew you should leave? Because what I witnessed in the next 2 hours made everything before this look like a company picnic. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I wanted to see how bad it could actually get. Maybe I'm just bad at saying no in professional settings. Whatever the reason, I found myself sitting in on a 2-hour crisis preparation meeting that revealed everything rotten at the core of this company. The Henderson account team consisted of 4 people, a project lead named Sarah, 2 junior analysts, and Marcus hovering over everyone like a disappointed deity. The crisis, as it turned out, was caused by Marcus himself changing the project scope 3 times in the past week without updating timelines or resources. Sarah tried to explain this diplomatically. The client expectations shifted after the Thursday call, and we don't blame the client, Marcus snapped. That's weak. Own your failures. I'm not blaming them. I'm explaining that when scope changes, timelines, excuses. Marcus turned to me. You see this? This is what I deal with. People who can't adopt. Sarah's face went red, not with embarrassment, with suppressed rage. The next 2 hours were a masterclass in terrible leadership. Marcus rejected every solution the team proposed, offered no alternatives, and then blamed them for not having solutions. He took 2 personal calls during the meeting and expected everyone to wait in silence. He made one of the junior analysts, a kid who couldn't have been more than 23, present his analysis, then tore it apart line by line while the kid struggled not to cry. This is how we build excellence, Marcus told me during a break. High standards, no coddling. By 5:30, my decision was made, but I wanted to see the client call. Call it morbid curiosity. The call started at 6. Henderson's team, their project manager and a VP, joined via video. Marcus transformed. Suddenly, he was charming, apologetic, understanding. He threw his own team under the bus with surgical precision. We identified some internal process gaps, he said smoothly. Some team members weren't aligned with our quality standards. We've already taken corrective action. Sarah, who was on the call, looked like she'd been slapped. The Henderson VP asked pointed questions about the timeline. Marcus promised a revised plan by Monday. When the call ended, he turned to Sarah. You heard them. Monday. I don't care if you work through the weekend. I don't care if you cancel your plans. This gets done. Sarah, Marcus, Sarah said slowly, my daughter's birthday is Saturday. I've had this planned for. Then you should have thought about that before you let the account slip. Sarah didn't argue. She just nodded, dead-eyed, and started packing up her laptop. Marcus walked me back to the elevator. Along the way, he gave me what I'm sure he thought was an inspiring speech. This is what we do here. We win. We don't make excuses. We don't let personal stuff get in the way of results. He clapped me on the shoulder. I think you'd fit in well. You've got that hunger. HR will send over the offer by end of week. We'll want you to start in 2 weeks. That work? He didn't ask if I wanted the job. He assumed. Can I ask you something? I said. Shoot. That woman this afternoon in the conference room, the one you were meeting with, what happened there? Marcus's expression flickered, just for a moment. Then he smiled. Performance management. Sometimes people need direct feedback. She'll either rise to the occasion or she won't. Either way, we maintain our standards. And if she doesn't rise to the occasion, Then she wasn't Vertex material. He said it like he was describing a natural law. We only keep A players here. The B players either become A players or they self-select out. The elevator arrived. I stepped in. "Thanks for your time," I said. "I'll look for that offer." The doors closed. I never responded to the offer. It arrived Friday as promised. Solid salary, decent equity, all the trappings of a good opportunity. But I'd seen behind the curtain. I'd seen what unlimited PTO meant at a company where taking any PTO made you not a culture fit. I'd seen what fast-paced environment translated to when leadership created crises through incompetence and blamed their teams. I'd seen the tears. Here's the thing about red flags in interviews. They're not bugs, they're features. They're the company telling you exactly who they are. And we're conditioned to ignore them. We explain them away. We tell ourselves it was a bad day, an unusual circumstance, not representative. But it's always representative. A month later, I connected with Priya, the HR coordinator who'd walked me in on LinkedIn. She'd quit after 5 weeks, told me that the woman Marcus was screaming at during my interview had resigned the following day, that Sarah had missed her daughter's birthday and handed in her notice the Monday after, that the average tenure at Vertex was 8 months. I ended up taking a different job. Smaller company, lower salary, boring, normal interviews where people apologized for 5-minute delays and asked about my career goals instead of demanding I prove why they should care. My boss there respects weekends, respects boundaries, respects that people have lives outside of work. It's not exciting. There are no war stories. And that's exactly the point. Sometimes the best career decision you'll ever make is recognizing when a company shows you who they are in the interview. Because if that's how they treat you when they're trying to impress you, imagine what happens after you sign the offer letter. The red flags aren't obstacles to your dream job. They're warnings protecting you from a nightmare.
If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I know a lot of you have probably been in similar situations, interviews where something felt off but you couldn't put your finger on it, or jobs where you ignored the warning signs and paid the price. I want to hear about it. Drop a comment with your biggest interview red flag story. Like this video if it resonated with you, and subscribe if you want more stories about workplace insanity. And if you have a story of your own that you want featured, send it my way. Your nightmare job might just save someone else from making the same mistake. Until next time, trust your gut. It's usually right.